It's Wednesday, September 4th, 2019. We're going to do a quick review of the trades that I called out in the chat room. We currently have two chat room sessions. The first one is available to uh, monthly monthly subscription memberships. It starts at 7 a.m. New York time until 1 p.m. New York time. I also do some coaching, and I started a beta program for. It's actually a 6-week program for 25 students. There's actually still 3 spots available. It just started just this past week, so it's not like you would be behind if you actually wanted to join the beta program. But the beta program members get a dedicated chat room session that starts at the London. So we start that at 2 a.m. New York time, and then they can participate with the New York session. So we have 2 sessions right now in the chat room: the London session, the New York session. The London session right now, currently until September 16th, is only available to beta program coaching students while they go through that 6-week program. But September 16th, I'll be opening the chat room to everybody. So you'll get, even if you just want the chat room itself and you don't want to go through the beta program, you can get a monthly subscription to the chat room, and you'll get both sessions, the London and the New York session, starting September 16th. Right now, again, if you just were to join just the chat room alone, you would get the New York session, which is from 7 a.m. New York time until 1 p.m. So some of the trades I'm going to show you here uh, originated with the New York session. They were calls that I just recently called out just recently in the chat room, and I'll show you the details here. And then there were other trades, again, with the coaching students that are going through the beta program. That started back at 2 o'clock in the morning, and we had some breakout trades there. I just received a message from a student in the beta program, and he earned his first 100 pips today. I thought it was kind of cool. I like seeing messages like that. It encourages me, it empowers me. It's the reason that I want to do it. And I get the question every once in a while: why do you do coaching? Why do you even bother? Like, doesn't it take up your time? Why don't you just trade by yourself? And I have always believed, and I saw a big difference when I opened up my first chat room in 2007. I saw a big difference in the way I was trading, and what it was I learned a long time ago that we think by talking. So very often when you're talking out loud or when you're talking to people, you come up with ideas, and it sort of solidifies ideas while you're talking. And when you think quietly with no words, you don't speak to anybody and you're alone, those thoughts are there, but they're not as impactful. At least that's the way it is for me and for a lot of people. So when I started sharing my trading strategies in a instant message group in Yahoo before 2007, and then in 2007 when I opened up my chat room, when I was sharing my methods and my strategies, people were asking me questions, and I liked the feedback, and it sort of, I realized right away, but it took me down a path that I realized was solidifying my trading system because I was repeating it every day, and it also kept me accountable for what I was really doing. Like, I mean, I knew that the system had worked because I was already earning a living from trading prior to 2007. But at that point, it was like I was now experiencing and sharing the feedback with other people who had experience, maybe even as much experience as I had up to that time in 2007. And it was a great opportunity. The people that were in my chat room were really experienced individuals. Some of them had 5 years trading experience. Some of them they had broker's license. So I don't usually attract the newbie. I usually tend to attract people that have been in the business or have tried to trade for at least, a year or so, maybe, or greater. And a lot of them are professionals and are trying to trade their own account for funding maybe retirement or for extra income and things like that. So a lot of these people that are in the chat room and the people that I coach, they have a lot of experience as a trader anyway. So they would be able to cut through, the BS if I was talking BS all day long, and it was a great feeling because trading up to that point was pretty quiet. It was pretty lonely. It was just me by myself, and I really didn't have anybody to talk to. People would say to me prior to starting my chat room in 2007, when I would talk about it with friends or family, they'd say, "It's just kind of weird what you do. I don't understand how you make money. How do you get paid? Like, how do you get paid from this?" And it was just totally different to be in a group with people, and I've never let go of that. I've always felt that that was part of my success, was hanging on to belonging to this group of traders and trading with them every day. And it keeps me sharp. It keeps me sharp. it's the reason that I wake up every day, or not the only reason, but it's one of the reasons why I wake up every day, to turn on the chat room, get things ready, and call out trades and analyze trades and look at the market. And I'm talking and thinking out loud, and it solidifies all my trading decisions, because you can get into a really lazy routine or rhythm, and sort of skip on the basics if you don't stay sharp. And the chat room keeps me sharp, especially when I'm coaching. When I get messages like that somebody makes 100 pips, it's an awesome thing. I mean, even 40 pips, 50 pips. The message that I got today from the coaching student from the beta program, the trade that he took, he could have actually earned another 100 pips, but he decided on his own, I guess, to just close it at the first target. And I know what that feels like. I think we all know what that feels like. It's almost like you can't believe it, that it's actually happening. This was the beta program chat room from the London session trade call. The entry was 128.42. The first target was 129.42, and the second target for 200 pips from the entry to that target is 130.42. And again, we couldn't go for the 250, which is what I would normally trade to, because resistance is sitting right here. We got to make sure that we lock in profits here. So price hit 41.5 on this chart and cleared 42.1 on another chart. He could have earned a total of 200 pips, but there's nothing wrong with what he did. There's nothing wrong with what he did. That was the first target. He did exactly what he was supposed to, and I believe he mentioned in the testimonial that he had sent me, the message that he sent me, that he had his wife sitting next to him when he closed the trade. I'm sure they were looking at the dollar amount and realizing, and I'm sure he pointed out, I would have done the same thing. I remember doing the same thing when I started experiencing winning trades and I started making money. It was like I would call my kids in to have them look at this and look at the trading account and see what it was that I was doing. And I would tell them how many hours it took me to make that money. And it's a wonderful experience. So the chat room, I call out these trades. So this was actually one of the trades that I called out earlier in the day. This is a pound dollar. I'm sorry, the pound yen. And the pound yen, I can typically earn, if it's a good clean breakout, right? Not inside a consolidation, but if it's a good move or a sharp reversal like what we're looking at for most of this week, I can earn 100 pips, 150 pips, 250 pips on a trade like this, because it covers a greater distance than, let's say, for example, the pound dollar or the euro dollar. So these trades were set up just at the beginning of or just about the time that the London market started. That's when I have the first session in the chat room with my beta program coaching students. It's exclusive to just them. There's a total of up to 25 people available in there. And again, there's 3 spots available for the coaching. But that's what these are the trades that they get as a result of being in the chat room with me. And then again, on the 16th, the chat room is going to be open from the London session through the New York session, not just, separate independent sessions. The other trade was here on the euro yen. So the euro yen was another breakout, again, at the London market open. Approximately 116.81 was the target, and 117.60 is the final target. It hasn't stopped just yet. It's getting closer. I did mention to chat room members when we got into the trade that 50 is a psychological level, and this one may stall. It might not move and cover the distance the way, like between one of the two, right? Between the pound and the euro, the pound might cover a greater distance for the day because of maybe Brexit or something. Something's driving the pound. So that would be the driver for the most part, not to mention the yen weakness that we've been tracking all day long, and I'll talk about that in a moment. We've been tracking it since last week, but we've been talking about it all day. I've been in the chat room since 11 o'clock. I'm in California, so 11 o'clock at night is when I got into the chat room, and it is now 2:30 in the afternoon California time, and I've been in the chat room ever since, and I haven't stopped. So eventually, at one point, I'm going to have to slow down and take a break here. But we've been talking about the yen weakness all day long and throughout the week. So what I'm getting at is that, between the euro yen and the pound yen might cover a greater distance because there might be more activity in the pound, and the euro yen might not go as far because there's maybe a muted reaction and the euro dollar just isn't moving as far, something to that effect. And same with the dollar yen. It might not be dropping as hard and fast as we want it to. Something like that is what I'm getting at. It doesn't necessarily mean that that's the correlation between the two all the time, but that's what I'm looking at. So when I mentioned the 60, I also said there's the 50. And if for some reason price seems to stall right around the 50, let's take that profit, right? From 80 to 50, that's still a hell of a trade. That's a good trade. And again, knowing that one of these currency pairs may move a little bit slower and may not cover the normal distance, we got to protect profits here. But normally this would be the 60 would be the 80 pip target there that we would be trading to. So that was the beta program coaching students who start with me during the London session. The New York session we had. I'll go to the dollar Swiss. So the New York session New York session chat room members got this trade here, which was a sell signal on the dollar Swiss, and the entry was at 36. So that tag reads 34, and I'm going to explain why. So this video is also going to serve as an update for people who are chat room members but were not in the chat room today or missed some of the activity. So the entry here was at 36, and the first target was 16, which it hit, and then of course our second final target is down here at 80. Now there was a few things that I was talking about just before I closed up this session, the New York session, which was that if price stalls right around this level, we may want to lock in profits here right around the 00. So we scale out of these trades. So one of the things that we do is scale out, the way we scale out, and I've been doing this since the beginning of my trading career, well, actually about a year in. I understood the concept of scaling out of trades, but I wasn't applying it because I didn't think it mattered to me because I was day trading. I was just looking for one target, and I was trading at that time 5 standard lots, and I would just trade it straight to one single target. And it wouldn't always hit the target, and I was developing my trading system at the same time. So I hired a trader psychologist that was working with me, and one of the first things they asked me was, are you scaling out of your trades? And they said that in itself will probably change some of the dynamics and create an opportunity in a situation where you're earning profits consistently, which keeps you in the game and allows you to experience more success. And then it sort of feeds on itself as you move forward, developing your own trading system. You're not as afraid because you're consistently making money. You're above water, right? You're not right at the level that you funded your trading account. Now you're seeing some profits. So if you lose a little bit on a trade, you still have that room where you're still profitable and you're okay. And it gives you a greater sense of confidence. So I started scaling out at different locations. So one of the things that I say in the chat room, if you are a member of the chat room and you're going to follow along what I'm saying here as we scale out of these trades, if you always trade with, let's say, one mini lot and that's the maximum you're comfortable with, or one standard lot and that's the maximum you're comfortable with, I recommend cutting that in half, and then you open up 2 orders on the entry, and then you would close the first order at the first take profit level, and then at that point you've locked in profits. So from 36 to the first target there at 16, we lock in the profits there, and then from that point we let the second half of the trade, the second position, go. We set it at a break-even stop. So the break-even stop in this case would have been, let's just say, 2 pips. So if price comes back up, sorry about that, if price comes back up to 34, the second half of the trade would be stopped out. Otherwise, at this point, it's still moving lower, and we're still in the trade at this point, so we would continue to hold on to it. But I did mention, if it looks like it's stalling, then of course we've got to take some profits. But so far, it's really not looking like it's stalling. It's sort of printed this semi-bullish candle here, little tiny one there, but that was at the 00 level. That was to be expected at that point. So we're going to continue to hold on to this. This is a 1-hour chart, so this has another 30 minutes or so, and then we just continue to watch it all the way down here. And of course, if it stalls at 77 or 79, 81, 82, something like that, we could close the trade. It's similar to what was going on over here with this one, and you want to be careful with it, right? As it's approaching some of these serious and critical support or resistance levels, you need to be paying attention. If it was like a 00, I would expect that there would be a little more resistance around that range, whether it's to the downside or to the upside, as opposed to it just moving through some of these psychological levels. This was very different. So with this example, with the pound yen, 200 pips from the entry for most of the coaching students that started with me in the London session that are beta student members in the 6-week program. 200 pips is what most of them earned. The one testimonial that I got earlier today was after he had closed his trade with the 100 pip. That's just all he was comfortable with. That's okay. That's the first target. So again, executing 2 positions on the open and then trading it, closing the first lot or the first position at the first target, and then setting it at a break-even stop. And you'll see that with the pullback here, it didn't, I mean, it went nowhere near the break-even stop, and it just kept going. So a total of 200 pips on that second position from the entry, and then there was also the first position. So effectively, it's 300 pips today for those who did this and used this scaling out method and followed my instructions here in the chat room. So I call out these trades. I show, you know, the price targets and the levels with these tags. I explain why I'm getting in the trade, what news could affect the trade. So all of my entire thinking process as I'm looking for information for, you know, confirmation to qualify these trades, to justify getting into the trade, I'm speaking all of that out in the chat room, and you get to see the charts. So I call out all of these trades. Pound dollar, nothing yet at this point. This one just continues to go a little bit higher. It broke above this week's high here, but I didn't trade that. It's just, I stayed away from it. There was a lot of activity with the pound yen, the euro dollar, dollar Swiss, and then watching this other one here, which was the dollar yen. So the dollar yen, there was a few situations here during the day. You can see this 1 hour consolidation, the dollar yen. There was a few situations where it looked like it was topping out here, and maybe we would get an opportunity to sell, but I needed to watch it closely. Didn't want to make a mistake, didn't want to be on the wrong side of it. I still think that we're going to continue to see more Japanese yen weakness, which means this chart here, price should continue higher. This is the dollar yen. So price should continue higher. Now, I cannot exclude the possibility of maybe a retest or a retracement down here to, I don't know, maybe even the 106 level and then a bounce. That's a possibility. But if you watch some of the videos on this page or in the YouTube channel or inside of the membership area, the last few days, especially in the chat room, we talk about this almost every hour in the chat room, I show the Japanese yen futures charts. Again, the Japanese yen futures, that's different than what we're looking at right now. What we're looking at right now is a currency pair, US dollar, Japanese yen. So when I'm looking at Japanese yen futures, I do trade futures, but what I see and the signals that I see with the Japanese yen futures daily time frame would indicate more yen weakness. I do need some more confirmation to be totally convinced that the dollar yen is going to break above the 2-week high up there that you see and then continue to rally higher. At that point, when I see the Japanese yen futures print that daily candle below support, I would be more likely to expect price to continue in the, you know, weaker yen is what I'm getting at. So today was a bit choppy here with the dollar yen. I didn't really have any signals here, but I had something that looked like possible setups, and I wanted to confirm whether they were valid or whether I should, you know, avoid them altogether, and if price is going to continue to move higher, because it looked like there was a couple of locations there where it could have dropped back down, you know, for a small 20, 30, 40 pips, something like that move, if that was the setup or the case. But it wasn't. You know, once I was able to confirm that these reversal patterns weren't going to go anywhere, I just stayed away from it, and it continues to remain inside of this range of consolidation. So right now, what I'm doing is waiting for a 1 hour candle to close outside of this range. It doesn't mean that that's the only trade opportunity that I'm going to get, but that's the primary bigger trade that I'm waiting for that sets up a trending move in the direction of the breakout. And then that should all come together with what I've reviewed over the past few days in these videos. When you see the dollar yen, I show you the weekly chart. There was a Tech 1 bullish candle off support from March 18th, 2018. There's a support low in there on the weekly chart for the dollar yen, and it bounced off of that last week and the week before. And then again, the Japanese yen futures topping out and printing on the daily time frame more yen weakness and a possible close below support, which could indicate an even further move lower in the yen, which again, the dollar yen, don't mean to confuse anybody, should go a lot higher. So that could lead to that ultimate continuation breakout trade setup. So I didn't have a trade here on this one, but I will be looking, and I will be waiting for my breakouts. At the end of the day, after the rollover and the daily candles have closed, I go back in, I make another update video, I send it out to all of my chat room members, and I show them the daily candles. I review everything that I just talked about, Japanese yen futures, waiting for that daily candle to close, watching the weekly chart on that Tech 1 bullish dollar yen move, and then waiting for this 1 hour time frame here to give me some kind of a signal. So it was a big day. Just 200 pips alone with the pound yen. The euro yen is not over with just yet, but even if we were to close it at the location that we're at, it would be about 50 pips here. The dollar Swiss from 34 down here to the 00, approximately 32 pips. The other trade here was the euro dollar. And this one, we've got a target up here at about 50. That's the psychological level. It keeps moving up just a little bit higher every couple of hours. So it's not too bad. I mean, it's, if it stalls right around R3, I mentioned in the chat room that maybe we should lock it in. That would be 43. The 1.1043 is R3 here, just below the 50 psychological level. And it might be that's as far as it goes. If it looks like it's going to stall, of course, close it. I don't expect a whole lot from this one, a big move. But most of the big move, in my opinion, is done. I mean, we did this in the chat room yesterday for coaching students at the London Open. This was a London Open trade, and that bounce reversal, we did the same thing with the pound dollar. Here, this was, again, beta program, London session chat room members were able to catch these trades. So I'm not saying that because they've hit these targets that it's going to start slowing down. We're seeing a pretty strong reversal this week. I think it caught a lot of people off guard, and last week a lot of people were expecting the euro dollar to go a lot lower. But after the pound dollar went through that 2,000 level and then reversed, which was pretty obvious at that point, you can see it down there with those indicators as we were setting up in the chat room during the London session for the beta program members. That's that six-week program coaching. So it looked pretty obvious at that point. As far as it's moved, it's not something that I was anticipating in the beginning, but you could see it unfolding as it continued to move further. And then you get these 4-hour candles, you get these daily candles. Everything sort of comes together and starts to verify and validate the possibility that price is going to go back up to a pretty significant resistance level. So the same thing on the euro dollar. I think it surprised a lot of people there. Go back to the euro dollar here. So it's been, again, the euro dollar hasn't hit its final target, but most of them have hit their first targets: 200 pips, 50 pips, 30 pips. That's just from today. And then this one here, euro dollar, 23, 33, 10, 15 pips here. I think it'll go a little bit higher. I think it'll continue to trace a little bit higher. So it's quite a day at that point. So if you want trades like this, I mean, the best way to do it, you could watch videos and try to figure out how to use these systems by yourself, and it's hard. I did it, and it didn't work for me. I didn't learn by watching videos. I learned some things by watching videos. And I saw the argument today. Somebody in a Facebook group was saying that if you post a picture or a trade that's already closed, already reached its target, why talk about it? That's not helping anybody. And that's not necessarily true, because you want to go back to the beginning. You want to be able to see that it reached its target, and then you want to dissect and break down the trade. And I get it. Sometimes you want to see a trade live from the open, and you want to see that the person has the skill to be able to call out the trade. And I can't always turn on my recorder right away when I'm in the chat room and I'm running all these different programs on my computer, and then turn on the screen recording and then catch the entry. Very often I'm answering questions, I'm showing different charts, I'm looking at other setups. Very often 2 or 3 trades will set up at the same time. There's a lot going on. I don't know about some of these other educators and these guys who are teaching how to trade, if that's their issue, but I understand it. So when we're looking back and you're looking at some of these videos, I get it. You might be thinking, well, you're always showing me trades that are closed. Like, what about the failed trades? I'll show you the failed trades. I don't have a problem going through the analysis of a failed trade, and I do it live in the chat room. And I do it because, first of all, I want to know what happened to it, but I want to teach everybody else that it can be corrected. In most cases, if a failed trade happens, it's because something was missing in that trade setup. My system is really, really rigid. It's very, very specific. And I built it that way. I created it this way. I've been using it for 18 plus years. And when a trade goes bad, I can see why it went bad. And I think that's a really critical skill to master and to learn, is the ability to self-correct, to be able to go back in and figure out why. Why didn't this work? And is it me or is it the trading system? Those are the questions you need to answer. When you're in the chat room with me and I'm walking you through all of these steps, I think that's the best way to learn, right? Because you get to ask me questions in real time and ask me why. Why are we getting in? Why are you doing this? Why does it look like that to you? Because it doesn't look like that to me. That's sometimes what people think. You can show two charts to two different people and they'll see two different things. Or I'm sorry, one chart to two different people and they'll see two different things. You get my point. I blew that one. But anyway, that's the reality of trading, and that's what makes trading so special and so unique, and also at the same time really hard to master and to succeed at. Is that you yourself can look at a chart and then decide, and then later on make another decision, and it'll be the complete opposite. So again, I think it's really important to get real-time information if you're going to use these strategies. These strategies that I'm showing you, this is my system. It's not somebody else's system. So I've got to be able to explain why these targets are the targets that I chose, or why I'm using this stop loss. That was another thing we did today. The stop losses were really small. The stop loss on this one was about 20 pips. This is the dollar Swiss. And then the stop loss on this one was about 20 pips. So I'm not using big stops. The largest stop I ever use is 55 pips. But if I change that, if I'm not using a 55 pip stop loss, and you're wondering why, like why is he using a 20 pip stop loss and not a 50? In the chat room, I can answer those questions. And I think it's important that you know, so that you know when to make those changes and those adjustments to stop loss. I'm not changing the plan. I'm just changing and covering myself when I see something that's more likely to work in my favor. I see that the risk to reward is more likely to work, which is exactly what we saw here on the dollar Swiss. This one moved a little bit faster. So that was a good trade. That was a good opportunity. So if you'd like to join the chat room, drop me a message or send me an instant message if you'd like, or send me an email at theforexchatroomlive@gmail.com. Otherwise, you can also see the link to the website where you can go straight to the Forex chat room page. You can learn all about it. You can see other videos. You can decide if this is actually for you. If you can trade right now from 7 a.m. New York time until 1 p.m. New York time, this is a good deal for you. Like, you should be in the chat room with me if you can trade those hours. And then, again, September 16th, I'm going to be opening up the chat room to everybody. And then everybody is going to have from the London session to the New York, all the way through the New York session. So there'll be 2 sessions completely that you can attend, and it doesn't change the price of the chat room. It's a monthly subscription. Right now, I'm also giving the trading course as a bonus when you sign up for the chat room. And then that way you can go into the online trading course and you can watch all the videos, all the modules for every one of these techniques that I explain and I talk about here in these videos. And then when you jump into the chat room, you'll have a pretty good understanding of what I'm doing. And I still do coaching. I mean, I still answer questions in the chat room. I stop and we talk about strategy. There's slow times in the chat room when I take breaks and things like that. But during those hours, we can talk about, when it's slow, we can talk about the setup, maybe on the larger time frames, and anything that has anything to do with my trading system I talk about in the chat room. So thank you very much. I hope you had a really good trading day. This was a big day for us. They don't always happen. Sometimes we get days of consolidation where I do nothing, and then all of a sudden I get days where I can make 200, 300 pips in a single day. It really depends. I can't do that every day, but when it's available, I'll call out these trades live in the chat room and walk you through how to trade each and every single one of these.